Hi, beloveds. Welcome. Loving these updates in the chat of how you are today, how your heart is, what you're bringing into today's call, what's alive. Gardening all morning and feeling bright and dirty. That is absolutely magnificent. Fantastic. Welcome. Welcome. We're here together on February 14th. It happens to be that day known as Valentine's Day. And I'm excited to have an opportunity to share love with you all and be in that frequency together. And, you know, whatever cultural imprints we feel as of around regarding this holiday, I invite us to be here in a spirit of love and in a spirit of curiosity. And let's start by taking a few breaths together. Down, all the way down into the belly, maybe putting your hands on your belly. Big sigh out. One more. Noticing what that does for the nervous system to simply pause and take a big breath. And while the hands are there, maybe giving your belly a little rub, little body love, because we're talking a lot about prosperity this week, what it means to be abundant, what it means to be prosperous. And for me, such a big part of that is feeling at home in my body, right? Embodying abundance, embodying prosperity. And we can't really be prosperous if we aren't embodied, right? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think it's part of the package, right? It's part of the curriculum for us in these human bodies. And yesterday we talked about this phrase, I breathe, therefore I prosper. And it's such a great invitation kind of out of that very clear, direct line of that prosperity and abundance are first and foremost financial, right? And it reminds us, it helps us remember that it's so much bigger than that. So if you were with us yesterday, dear ones, I would love to hear in the homework, maybe a yes in the homework. All right, let's try that sentence again. I would love to hear in the chat if you did the homework from yesterday. And the homework assignment from yesterday was to brainstorm a list of 10 items that you could do to begin to dismantle what might be in this moment your number one obstacle, the thing that feels like it weighs on you the most. So you can simply put a yes in the chat or a no in the chat if you did or you didn't, and that's okay, either way. Would love to hear where we're at. And today it feels really appropriate that today's lesson is falling on the Valentine's Day, because today we're going to be talking all about befriending our numbers. And what would it be like to embrace, to actually court? What would it be like to court our dollars, right? Like to romance our business, to romance our bank accounts, to romance our relationship with our numbers. What would that be like? So that's what we're heading into today. And I love these responses. We have some yeses and some nos, all good. Had to give the last 2 out of 10 to spirit. I love that. Perfect. Right? I'm working on getting to the point where I'm giving it all to spirit. Simple, not color coded yet. There's still time for color coding. All right, so let's dive in to today's offer, today's lesson, and maybe let me know in the chat if you can see the slide. So today we are going to be moving into this, befriending your numbers. Let it come. Let's do this. Before I go into this, want to double check. Can you all see this slide all right? Okay, good. Wonderful. All right. Okay, so again, we've been talking about this economy of attention. Frequency, dollars, actions. These are the places where our attention can go, right? And this is really the framework we're working in, is how to boost our economy, our personal ecosystem. Interesting that ecology, economy, right? They have the same root of eco. So there is something very holistic, very natural about this process. So today we're going to be getting really clearly into the economy of attention with our dollars. And the first thing that I want to start with is this reality check on what is enough. What does enough even mean? Because so often I think we get stuck in the abyss of not enoughness. And not enoughness is another way to say scarcity. And what is scarcity? When I feel into that word and what everything that's inside, everything that's packed into that word, where I land is that scarcity is a belief, and that's the first thing to simply say, that scarcity is a belief, that there is not enough, that there never has been enough, that there never will be enough, that there is a lack, right? There is a lack. And it's a mentality, right? Scarcity is a mentality. And certainly there are places in life and in nature where we can look and we can say, oh yeah, for this creature at this time of the year, food is scarce, right? So not to say that at the very heart of it, that scarcity is not a real thing, right? And I think that we give it a lot more airtime, we give it a lot more power than is actually the case for us. Scarcity is it's a big beast to wrestle with, am I right? Let me know in the comments if you feel this upon hearing the word scarcity and holding that. Do you feel like you experience beliefs and kind of the vibration of scarcity on a somewhat regular basis? Is that an alligator that you wrestle with? Maybe let me know in the chat. Like, what's your relationship to scarcity? Is it something that is a familiar foe? Or is it something that is very sporadic, but it still shows up? Or is it something that hardly ever shows up anymore? And wherever you are is okay, right? We're in this together. This is a lifelong process of unpacking and really unlearning and then relearning. So this is what I've really been geeking out on, because I can, like most other people, I can get really tripped up in this space of, oh my gosh, I don't have enough, there's not enough, I'm not like, what if there's not enough, this enoughness. And the truth, when I really root into it, the truth is that there actually is a very clear equation on enough when it comes to dollars and our needs. And as one of my mentors and past coaches, Rachel Rogers, says, which I love so much, the math has to math. The math has to math, y'all, right? So there is some math for this. And we're going to be dipping into some math today. Okay, thanks for sharing in the chat. Yeah, I see that it's a common foe, that it's sporadic. When I trust, I'm finding that she provides, she being the universe, learning to trust, feels like a self-fulfilling prophecy. When I'm scared I won't have enough, that perpetuates into the choices I make, which are contracting and minimizing. Yeah, absolutely. So this has got me really lit up, this remembrance or learning that there actually is an equation and that the math has to math. Okay, great. That takes all of the scarcity out of it. It simply allows me to get really clear. And what I love so much about that is that it brings me into a place of neutrality. It helps me get to this place where I don't feel charged, right? And often scarcity, am I right? It comes from the place of being charged. Like there is a reactiveness to it because it's a fear energy, right? All right, so let's talk about the math. There are 3 basic things in this equation, 3 factors to this equation. So feel free to take notes on this, feel free to screenshot these slides. Let's go through this. So the first part is tracking your expenses. So I'm going to walk us through this, and what I want to say is I would love to invite you to take all of this in with an open mind and to take all of it in from a beginner's mind and from a place of curiosity, because you very well may be doing some of this or maybe all of this, but if there's still scarcity there, there may be a missing piece, right? Or it may be that you know it, but you aren't fully embodying it. Or there's something that's not connecting. So let's go through this together and see what arises. So first part is tracking your expenses. What do I mean when I say your expenses? Okay, this is how I do it. So this is what I'm offering to you is basically my personal system of math. The metaphysics of math. So the first piece is your personal monthly expenditures. I do this in a spreadsheet and I do it from month to month. I've got categories, right? So there are lots of different apps out there. Mint is probably the most well-known one, which actually, as a side note, is being phased out soon and is turning into Credit Karma. So if you're a Mint user, you may have already known that. If you're not yet a Mint user, there are other alternatives because that one is going away soon. But all that to say that there are lots of apps, systems, you know, even in your banking, a lot of banks will categorize your expenses and your transactions. And then you can look back at that pretty easily to see what you spent. So this is the first piece, is getting to a place, and this is a system, right? This is building a system where you, every single month, you're tracking your expenses, you have them categorized, and let's say we're in February. At the end of February, you've tracked all of your expenses, you have them all categorized, you're able to see really clearly, okay, cool, this is how much I spent on groceries. This is how much I spent on kind of miscellaneous shopping. This is how much I spent on personal wellness. This is how much my utilities were. This is how much my rent or my mortgage is. This is how much medical was, right? So you break it down, and we all, there's similar categories, but we all have our own nuances. And from that, you will arrive at a baseline needs number. And what is probably obvious here, but worth saying, is that, of course, this is going to vary from month to month. And that's why doing it for over the long term is really worth it, because then over time you get averages. So even if you have a high expenditures month or a low expenditures month, you are able to average out for yourself pretty accurately what you spend on groceries. So that gives you your baseline needs number personally. Now, if you are also a business owner or an entrepreneur, then you will have a whole other category, and you want to keep them separate, of your personal or your professional expenditures. And this is the exact same thing, except probably the categories are going to be a bit different, right? Maybe some of them will overlap. If you've got a brick and mortar, you may have rent or mortgage. If but you might have team costs, you might have supplies costs, depending on whether you're a product-based business or a service-based business. You might have, goods for sale costs versus, there are all sorts of factors. So suffice to say, you've got your professional expenditures and the same thing. You've got that as a baseline needs number, and then your personal baseline needs number. Now you add these numbers together, and this is your total baseline, AKA what I'm going to call your enough number. Like, this is the number where if you make this, that is enough to cover your baseline needs, right? To get your needs met. What I also want to say is, hopefully in your personal and perhaps in your professional, you're ideally going to have built-in line items of auto transfer to savings every month, or auto transfer to my IRA every month. So you can also build in savings goals, right? And hopefully you are doing that. And that is part of your baseline. So I want to be really clear about that. And of course, again, that's going to vary for everyone depending on your flow, right? Depending on how abundant your business is doing in this moment, right? Maybe you're super steady, maybe you have more peaks and valleys, you have busy seasons, you have not as busy seasons. This is kind of what I have found with life, and so be it, right? Perhaps there will be a day when there is more of a steady pace, and also, I look at nature, and that's what nature does. So is that okay, right? So that gives us our enough number. Now, the last thing I want to say here is that ideally, you also, in this spreadsheet, in this system, you have your actual number, right? And then you can also have an additional column with your ideal number or your target number where you'd love to be. So let's say right now you have a line item in your expenditures that is an auto transfer to your savings account. And let's say right now it's $50, and that's your actual, that's what you feel like you can realistically do every month. but your target number might be $300, right? I'd love to be transferring $300 a month to my savings account. I'd love to, right now I'm transferring 100 to my IRA, and I'd love to be transferring 500 a month to my IRA, right? So this is the place where you can start to look at what you can do right now, and then also to stretch and to give yourself that target of where you'd love to be. Because this is the thing about enough, right? And I could do a long rant on this, so I'm not going to, but I will say that I feel that enough has almost gotten a bad rap, right? It's like enough isn't even enough anymore. Enough is insufficient. Enough has this connotation that it's not enough, right? And if we aren't way over the top of our goal, then even if we met our goal of what was enough, we still feel like crap. We still feel like we failed. What the heck, right? Like, is anyone with me on this? It's mind-boggling that the actual, anyway, okay, I can get really lost there. So that's important to say, because tracking your enough number, I think I want to take a stand and say that I believe it's powerful. To know this number is really powerful, and it's empowering, because if I know my enough number, then I can simply relax and aim for that number. And of course, I'm going to be plotting and dreaming and inviting Spirit and Divine Mother to show me how to be even more abundant above and beyond that. And, right, that's really where I feel like the nitty-gritty of the paradox of my personal work is with the dismantling of ambition, right? And the being at peace and choosing peace over striving, over the hustle, and being prosperous, right? It feels like a complex thing because it's kind of paradoxical. All right, let's go into the second piece. So that was the first piece, tracking your expenses. The second piece, tracking your revenue. So we track the expenses is everything that's going out. Tracking the revenue is everything that's coming in. So I want to say that you can do this on paper, you can do this digitally, or you can do a fusion. And this is how I do it. So tracking your revenue gives you your monthly totals for how much is coming in. And this could be all shapes and forms, right? Like tracking your business revenue. Let's say you're an affiliate for something, right? Let's say you get a little of that in. Let's say you have your money in some high yield savings accounts, which, by the way, I hope you all do. If you don't have your money in a high yield savings account, please write that down right now and set that up today. Because your money can be making money even in a savings account. Right? Okay, so interest coming in, right? Every penny that comes in, you can be tracking, so that from month to month you know what you made. And then what I've been doing since I think 2017, which is really freaking cool, is that because I track my revenue monthly, then at the end of every month I go into this spreadsheet that I have in Google Sheets and I write down what I made that month. And then I have that divided up into quarters, and then that is divided up into the years. And so I can look back from 2017 and literally see how much I made every single month, how much I made every single quarter, and how much I made every year. And I can see what the trends were. I can see what the patterns are. I can see where the growth is. I can see where the slowing down is. And it allows me this long-term visibility on my dollars. And that boosts the economy of my attention, right? One of my mentors used to say, money loves attention. And as I said earlier in this series, what I've noticed for myself, and I'm curious to hear if this is true for you, what I notice for myself is anytime I'm in overwhelm, I can directly correlate overwhelm to a lack of visibility, to an ignoring, an ignorance of what's going on with my money. Curious if that is also true for you. Do you find that overwhelm comes when you're scared to look, right? When you're not looking, when you don't know what's going on, you get overwhelmed. All right, so that's the second piece. So tracking your expenses, tracking your revenue. So now that you've got these two basic numbers, you've got your enough number, and you know right now how much is coming in. And you may find, oh, now that I know my enough number and I look at how much is coming in, I'm already hitting my enough number. Freaking fantastic. I can relax a little bit, right? Maybe that's you. Maybe you'll look at these equations and maybe you'll realize, okay, there's a gap. I am spending more than I'm making every month. So what are we going to do about that, right? So this is the third piece, is now we get to use our unbound, infinite creativity and generate some dollars with our creativity. So this is where we start to play, right? And this is where we start to dream, and really where the energetics and the practicality, right? The spiritual and the practical, they start to kind of touch each other. It's this place of, okay, I know my number, I know where I'd like to be, I'm not quite there, or maybe I am there, and now let me brainstorm some ways to get to my target number, to my ideal number, so that I can put even more in my retirement account, so that I can save up for that amazing crystal singing bowl that I want. Now we're talking my language. So this is the third piece, is brainstorming 10 ways that you can use your creativity to generate those dollars. And again, this is another kind of formula, right? So imagining that you could sit down and you could list, and depending on your business, depending on your service, this is going to look different for everybody. But let's say your gap is, let's say it's $10,000, right? You feel like you're 10,000 short, and that could be annually, or maybe it's that you're 1,000 short monthly of where you'd like to be. So brainstorming 10 ways that you can use your creativity to generate an extra $1,000 a month. And this is the part where I really encourage you to play, to imagine, and to not edit. Like, this is where we get to think about what skills and gifts and tools do we have at our disposal that we could offer, that we could monetize, that we could sell. Maybe you've got some amazing clothes in your closet that you never wear that you could sell. Maybe you've got some art that you could sell. Maybe you love to, who knows, maybe you're incredible at makeup artistry and you could offer makeup lessons. And you could calculate, okay, well, if I charged $100 for that and I sold 10 of those, then that would be $1,000. So that's an example of the kind of math that you would do for each one, of like, okay, well, if I do, and it doesn't have to be one either, right? It could be, okay, well, if I sold 5 makeup lessons and then I also, what would it be? I also sold X amount of this product, or I also did one deeper kind of mentorship or coaching offering, right? Maybe I could reach that number. So it doesn't necessarily have to be one thing that gets you there either. And chances are it won't be, right? This is for me in my business. That gap is often like, okay, well, if I, how can I tweak this and how can I imagine it? How can I play with, some higher end offers and some lower end offers? So we all have different businesses. So hopefully this is giving you just some ideas, right? Some little sparks of inspiration. And then lastly, I want to offer a few other metrics if you're a business owner, which I assume you are, or you are moving toward being a business owner, that are worth tracking. These are things like email stats, landing page stats, sales or buyer or enrollment stats, and social media stats. And this is something that, I think we know, but are we actually doing it? And it's something that I'm really working on in my business this year, is this idea of sustainability, right? We've been talking about this with simplicity. And if it's not simple, it's not sustainable. And if it's not sustainable, I don't want it, right? So this idea of, are there places in your work, in your business, where you're kind of spinning your wheels and you're putting a lot of energy into something and it's not really, there's not a big return on it? That could be a place where you save some of your precious energy and you put it elsewhere, right? Or maybe you decide, well, I really do want to get better at this, so maybe I need some more education, maybe I need some more training, maybe I need to tweak my strategy. But it's really worth, I think, paying attention to these metrics so that everything that we are spending our precious time on is actually worth doing, right? So that was a lot. It was a big download. And I realized that saying that in words is much faster and simpler than actually doing it. So I would love to hear from you in the chat on a scale of 1 to 10. I would love for you to rate the level of resistance you feel in your body right now when you feel into befriending and tracking your numbers. 1 being like heart, 0 being no resistance at all, let's go as soon as this is over, I'm gonna spend 90 minutes and get this going. 10 being like, oh my God, Britta, you're nutso, and I am not convinced. So I would love to hear from you in the chat where you are. And I think it's helpful, right? Simply helpful to visualize. Scale is 1 to 10. 1 to 10. 0 being 0 resistance at all, let's go. 10 being, hell no, I'm not doing it. I don't care what you say. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good. So we don't have any 0s. We also don't have any 10s. This is wonderful. We've got some 3s, some 7s, some 6s. Yeah. Yes. So I would like to offer us an invocation, an affirmation in this moment, which is, I am excited to befriend my numbers. And I would love to become frickin' amazing with spreadsheets. And I would love to have a weekly money date where I step in and I do this work, and afterward I feel rich. I feel abundant. I feel prosperous simply from expanding and boosting my economy of attention. Yes. So few short things before we conclude for today. Really important note that as we are befriending our numbers, the real work, my loves, the real work, this is the real talk, right? The real work is that these numbers don't define us. These numbers don't define our worth. Our worth as women, as humans, as people, as business owners, right? Can we separate ourselves from the egoic part of us that only feels like we are worthy when people want us and people need us and people are asking for us and throwing money our way, right? All of that is fantastic, and this feels really important to say. So we already talked about this. How resistant do I feel to befriending and tracking my numbers? And how would it feel to know my actual enough number? So I would love to hear from you in the chat. Take a moment, feel into your body. How would it feel to clearly know your enough number? How do you think it would feel? And I'd love to hear from you if you're willing to share. I know for me, it feels relieving. It feels like a sigh of relief in my body, in my nervous system. The guessing is gone, the mystery is gone, and there is simply the math. And of course, then there's the invitation into what's next, right? Liberating, relaxing, and daunting at the same time. Yeah, initial response is that it's too micromanaging, perhaps. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a real, I can only speak from my own experience, right? I feel like it's powerful to know. It's powerful to know, and for me, it's disempowering for me to not know. If I don't know, that's where overwhelm comes. That's where I feel kind of lost and swimming, right? And something really interesting that's coming up right now, beloveds, that I want to share is that there have been times when my business has been super abundant, really prosperous, lots, like big waves of money coming into my bank accounts. And of course, those times have been really exciting and inspiring. And even as I talk about being disempowered by not knowing my enough number, I can actually, what came forward for me was a memory, a vague memory of almost feeling disempowered in like the sea of dollars coming in, that on some level I didn't have a clear plan for, right? And now looking back, there's part of me that could look back on, last year or the year before that and say, wow, I could have done a way better job. I think I could have really oriented myself differently. And if I had done that, I think my retirement account would look really different than it does right now, right? So I think there is a ring of truth here about knowing our numbers, whether we're in the overflow or the scarcity, right? I really believe that the power comes in the clarity. The power comes in the clarity. Because as we talked about earlier, What are you going to do with those dollars when they come in, when they come pouring in, right? Yeah, I mean, how many people do you know who have been really abundant and really have come into great wealth, and then maybe a year later, maybe a decade later, it's all gone? I can think of several people in my very close life, as well as like all the people who have ever won the lottery, right? There is the phenomenon of people coming into great expansive wealth, and then within a number of years that are not very many, they're right back where they were beforehand. So the clarity, the power is in the clarity. So here is your sacred assignment for today, should you choose to accept it. And of course, this is a choice. Should you choose to accept it, your sacred assignment today is to find your enough number today. And an estimate is a great start. So you can go through this and do your best. Maybe you'll say, okay, I'm going to give myself 90 minutes. I'm going to give myself 60 minutes. I'm going to give myself 45 minutes to sit down and crank out the best possible report of what my enough number is. Personal and professional expenditures. What is it averaged monthly? Dig into your bank accounts if you need to, dig into your Mint, dig into your QuickBooks, like dig in. And then you find that number. Yeah. Yeah. I see you all in the chat. Thank you so much for sharing this. Huge financial shadow. Well, guess what? Shadow is dissipated by shining light. That is how a shadow goes away, by us looking at it, by us speaking to it, and by us integrating it, literally befriending it. That is how shadow dissipates, by being brought in and integrated into our whole being. And as we all know here, because we're all mystics, right? That's what we're here for. That is the curriculum. And money is clearly part of the sacred curriculum of being human. So for all of us who feel like, oh, I'm doing really well in my heart and my spiritual practice, but money is not good for me, let that be an invitation, because it's energy. It's all energy, right? Yes, this lesson is perfectly integrated and in divine timing with tax season. This is correct. Yes. Yes, beloveds. So thank you for being here today. And I want to give a little aside, friendly public service announcement that I am offering a 6-month counsel, and it is called Overflow. And it's a journey from overwhelm to overflow. And in this counsel, in this journey, one of the pieces that I'm very excited about is that it includes 3 life-changing spreadsheets that are totally dialed in, that are time-tested by myself over 7 years, 8 years, and ready to roll, like plug and play. And it also is an invitation to do this work in tax season, to up-level your prosperity mindset and your actual abundance practices and your economy of attention with your dollars, with your business, with a circle of other focused femmes who are devoted to improving their economy of attention right by your side. So that's all I'm going to say about it in this moment, is planting a seed, letting you know that that is there, and I'll share a little bit more about it over the next couple days. offering little slivers here in this offering. As I've been saying in the emails, I want to offer this 5-day training really to give you the content and the wisdom and the invitation that I myself have been stepping into. And if that's, I pray that there are pieces that you can take from this that feel really practical and really doable and invite you into the divine aligned next step. And if you want to do it with some other people, that's what Overflow is all about. So, more info to come. If you want more info today and you want to check it out, you can go to my website, brittagreenviolet.com/overflow, and you can read all the juicy details. And we begin mid-March. All right, beloveds, that is today's juicy tidbit. How are y'all doing? How's your nervous system? Give me a quick check-in, because I know that it can be a lot. I know that a lot of us have money trauma, right? It's a big thing, and it doesn't only come from this lifetime, right? It doesn't start with you. It starts with your ancestors. It's so much bigger than you in this moment. So know that I am with you, and know that you can always take a big, deep breath. Yeah, one step at a time. That's right. Beautiful. And I hope to see you tomorrow at the same time and same place. And we are going to be back tomorrow with day 4, Simplify Your Systems. So tomorrow we're going to be digging even more into simplicity and talking about how systems are sacred. They are the sacred feng shui of our businesses. They are how we declutter our psyche so that we can live more sustainably, work more sustainably, which leads to more peace and more prosperity. All right, dear ones, have a beautiful day. Good luck. Good fortune upon you with the homework for today, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Take care.